Derealisation is something that we both experienced as we were having these kind of out of body, out of mind kind of separation feelings, and it feels like from the records we made in the past, we haven't really like talked about those things. I think this album felt a little bit more like we wanted to talk about it.
I think part of it is like facing it, is like how a lot of people deal with mental health issues is by actually facing the issue. And I think, like I was saying, like we spent quite a few years like trying to escape it, and then actually found there was something quite peaceful in like accepting it, and then being able to accept that the world's kind of a weird place, and then through doing that being able to kind of like live with it. It's a very like visual feeling. It was quite easy to translate that feeling into music, I felt.
We became really excited about like the imagery of you kind of looking at the world as if you're like sat behind your eyes, and everything you're taking in as if there's like a separate layer in between you.
Feels like a glass box.
Yeah, or a glass box or something. But one of the things that's interesting is that it just comes out. It's not like we sat down, like Diva said, to write, and that we're like, oh, we're going to write an album about these experiences that we had when we were younger. It's more that you write an album and then you find in the lyrics, like inadvertently, you know, a lot of it is about overcoming those things, and then trying to tackle and decide how you want to feel about growing up and wanting to stay within a dream and not wanting to like let go of that. I remember a time feeling like I was like literally on the edge of like just fucking disappearing behind myself at some points, especially when you go through that really intense, you know, phase of like a downward spiral with like that separation feeling. And the whole last track is kind of that, you know, it's supposed to feel kind of as if you've like let go and then you've kind of fallen into it, and the song's about like not letting go into that feeling, which is, it seems quite dark, but like the idea is for the album to be optimistic.
That's why we've got a lot of songs in there called like Glistener and like I Shimmer and like stuff like that, because it is like this, the feeling that you have when you come out of a dark place, this kind of like shimmery, glistening thing, and that mixed in with the darker ones like Derealisation or like the glass box between you and me. Even Webs. Webs is kind of like a bit more about like escaping like the fucking clasp that some like things like this can have on you.
Yeah,
and a mental health.
Like mental health through hereditary things, of family ties of Webs. I always thought of it like that, you know, having lots of those things that pass down to you, and it's kind of like letting go of those things. Yeah, like you said, and also like I Shimmer is like right in the middle of the album. It's kind of like a hyper episode of like, you feel like you're like a god for like however long, and it comes at that point in the album where it's just like we're in, do you know what I mean? And everything feels like positive at that moment, and then if you know a few tracks later, things maybe turn a little bit dark or a little bit sour, and you know that wave. That is kind of just like life, isn't it?
Yeah, I feel like it's always meant to be like a comfort. I mean, it's a comfort to me. Weirdly, the album was me saying to myself, I'm going to accept that area, derealization, dissociation, all of that thing that, you know, a lot of us get, and kind of like accept the weirdness of it all. And then the album came out as kind of like this optimistic, comforting thing of being like, you're not alone. Even though I was saying it to myself, I think there's a lot of like trying to be happy all the time, and it obviously doesn't work. So it's kind of like the journey of the album is like happiness, sadness, going back and forth, and that's like okay.